Good evening. Welcome to the joint meeting between the Finance Committee and the Select Board, October 29, 2020 at 7 p.m. Just as a preliminary matter, just got to read a couple of things here before we get going. My name is Peter Carlson. I'll be the chair from the Grafton Select Board. Also with me tonight is Mark Haddad, who will also be chairing the Finance Committee. Please permit me to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on this agenda are present and can hear me. So members, would I please call your name? Please respond in the affirmative. Mr. Fazio?
Fazio present.
Mr. Often? Ms. Roy?
Here.
Right here.
All right. Mr. Frisbee?
Frisbee here.
And Mr. Terenzini is not going to be here. Wait a second here. I got the wrong thing. Finance Committee members. Mr. Haddad?
Present.
Mr. Jefferson?
Jefferson here.
Ms. McHugh?
McHugh here.
Let me see here. Mr. Smith?
Barry Smith here.
All right. And for staff that's here today, Ms. Sue Fiacco.
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you. And also joining us tonight will be soon to be nominated and ratified a deputy moderator, Mr. Mead.
Here.
Thank you. So good evening, everyone. This open meeting of the Town of Grafton Select Board and Finance Committee is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of COVID-19 virus. In order to mitigate the transmission of the COVID-19 virus, we have been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend all public gatherings. And as such, the governor's order suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings at a publicly accessible location. Further, all members of the public body are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order, which you can find posted at the town's website at www.grafton-ma.gov, allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely as long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with deliberations of the meeting. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will not feature public comment tonight. For this meeting, the Select Board and the Finance Committee is convening via Zoom meeting as posted on the town website, identifying how the public may join. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and that some attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that people if you screen share, people can see your computer, and anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording and viewed by the public. All supporting materials have been provided to all the members of this body in advance of the town's website, where final minutes will be posted upon conclusion of this meeting. Unless otherwise noted, the public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless I, the chair, will note otherwise. Just some ground rules, please. Before we turn to the first item of the agenda, I would like to just announce each person who will be speaking. Please go through me and ask for the floor. Please don't try to talk over one another. And please make sure that all your names and your Zoom meeting say your first and last name. Last but not least, we will go through this. We don't have any public participation tonight, so we're ready to get going. All right. Thank you very much for everyone making it out tonight. I want to thank Ray for joining us. Thank you very much for stepping up and stepping back into running town meeting temporarily here. So the purpose for tonight is the joint meeting with the Finance Committee, Select Board, and discuss and review town meeting logistics. So first up on here, let's just talk about the town meeting warrant with the Finance Committee and its recommendations, which we have and haven't changed, correct, Mark?
There's one article we need to reconsider. I think it's Article 2. Unpaid bills. An extra bill came in since we last voted. Is that right, Susan?
That is correct.
We can take care of that Saturday morning. We have a posted meeting.
Okay. All right. And that's the
Or
only one?
Saturday before the town meeting, we have a posted meeting.
Okay. Any other questions on the recommendations from the Finance Committee? All right, so I guess the next thing we're going to go down is just talk about the consent agenda. Ray, do you want to take part in this right here and just go through the list of motions?
Yeah, well, as far as the consent agenda, excuse me, as far as the consent agenda, I'm listening. You guys know a lot more about that than I do. I've read it. I've looked at it. I totally understand it, but you guys can explain that, or do you just want to go through every article? How do you want to do it?
Why don't we go through the consent motions, which kind of covers every single one of the articles? So,
Okay. So,
starting, go
so
ahead.
then I would suggest that Mark do that. He's-
Peter, can you share this? Can you share the screen with the motions? Because I don't have them,
I will,
please.
of course.
So Carter had put together a grouping of articles that he thought made sense. So when I drafted the consent motions, I did that based on how Carter grouped them. So we put together the financial articles for the first consent motion. So Peter, you would read the first consent motion in, which would consist of articles 1, 3, 5, and 6. And what would happen at that point, after you move that in, what happens is the moderator calls out each article number and wait to hear if somebody says hold. So he'd say Article 1, Article 3, Article 5, Article 6. If nobody holds, you immediately move to a vote. And if the vote carries, then those four motions pass as printed underneath. If somebody holds an article, that goes out, and then you read that, then you vote the articles that weren't held, and then that article that was held gets read in. So if somebody holds Article 1, but nobody holds Articles 3, 5, and 6, you would vote the consent motion with Articles 3, 5, and 6, and then Article 1 would be read into the record separately and voted separately.
Okay, and Mark, the only question that I have, because I saw a document that said I moved to waive the reading of the motion. So whatever Article 1, 3, 5, and 6
Yep.
would end up being Article 1. Would all of those articles be read, or are we waiving the reading of these articles?
You are waiving the reading of the articles. So the reason that we do it this way is we put the actual motions. I'm hoping that these motions are copied and handed out to the people when they check into town meeting.
Oh, yeah.
Is that going to happen?
They're supposed to be, yes.
Okay.
Everybody's supposed
So-
to get a copy of the motions in the consent order.
So if they have these in their hands, people will see what you're actually voting in the consent motion. So you do not need to read the actual motion into the record unless it's held and it's voted separately. Then Ray, you would do it as you would do any normal article. So if
Yeah.
nobody holds, if Peter reads this motion and nobody holds, and you go Article 1, Article 3, Article 5, Article 6, and nobody holds it, you move to a vote and it's done. Then you move to the next motion that's listed, which is for the unpaid bill.
Okay, so I attended a couple of town meetings in Drake quite a while ago, and they had. I was actually shocked at one, how fast they went through, and two, how the moderator called the votes by a roll call, not a roll call vote, but just saying yay or nay. It was kind of bizarre, but it's the exact same thing.
Correct.
So
That's how this would work.
So yeah, and I totally understand it. The only issue that I'll run into is when somebody gets up and very boldly says, "The hell are we doing?" So
That
at
could
that
happen.
point during the meeting, and if that does come up, and it will come up, I'm assuming it'll come up right at the beginning if that happens. Is that who will be explaining this? Mark, will you be explaining it, or Peter, or who will be explaining that?
I would be more than happy to explain it.
Okay, so I'm just gonna go right to you. You explain it.
Yep.
And then we'll go from there. I understand it. I understand what it does. So we can just move on.
Okay.
So Peter, if you slide down,
Yeah, I just want to go over this real quick. So I'm going to read basically, I'm going to highlight the area. Just this.
correct.
Okay.
And then after you read that, the moderator will call out, does anybody want to hold Article 1, Article 3, Article 5, Article 6? If nobody holds them, then the moderator moves immediately to a vote. And then you move to the next motion, which is Article 2, which is Select Board Member DeFazio's.
Okay,
article.
and prior to the start of the meeting, we're going to have this explained. Correct?
We should,
Okay.
and I'd be
Yeah.
more than happy to explain it.
And that'd be great, Mark. If you could do that, I'll just, once Peter, appoints me the deputy moderator, I'm just gonna go and say, we're gonna talk just for a minute about, these consent motions. We'll give you an idea of what's going on, how it advances the meeting and makes the meeting go a lot smoother.
All right.
Okay.
So the reason that these articles were grouped together is because they're all financial and they're all by majority vote. So
Yep.
then if you go to the next motion, which is under Article 2, I believe, which
Article
is
2,
the
the
prior year
9/10s.
bills.
Yep.
Yeah. And so we left that separate. And so that will be, you would handle that like you would handle any other normal article.
And
And that
that's
would
fine.
be read
Yep.
into the record. Yep,
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, it's the only reason is because it's 9/10, so
Correct.
Yeah, get it.
Then the next consent motion was grouped together because those are bylaw articles. And it sort of made sense that those were grouped together. So again, Matt will read those into the record, motion into the record. You call the article numbers, see if anybody holds them. If not, you move to a vote. If somebody holds it, then you vote what's not held, and then whatever is held, then that gets voted on separately. And that's why we put the motions underneath, so that if they get held, then Matt would, if somebody say holds Article 15, then Matt would go right after you vote the consent motion, Matt would go right to Article 15 and read that motion into the record. You'd handle it like you'd handle a normal article.
Yep.
Consent motion number 3, those are all the CPA articles, with one exception. I think Article 11 was just lumped into with the rest of the CPA articles. And again, those are all majority votes. And we
So,
would go through
and
that
Mark,
as well.
excuse me, I'm going to
Yep.
allow discussion on all of these articles, correct?
No, unless somebody, if they're not held, there's no
They're not
debate.
held, we're not going to allow any discussion on it?
Correct. That's the purpose of the consent motion. Move right into a vote. If they're not held, you move right to a vote, and then you move to the next motion.
Okay. I'm
I
just the
think that's going to
messenger.
have to be explained very clearly.
I'm just the messenger because somebody is going to lose their schlotzes over some of this stuff.
It is new, but the main reason for it is because you're outside on an October,
Yeah, no, I
They-
totally
yeah.
understand.
and then consent.
Well, no, it's new. It's new, but it's going to happen in May. If we're in the building in May,
Yep.
I hope that's the case. This is going to continue.
We
We're
use
not
it.
doing this just for this one meeting.
I agree 100%. We use this very effectively in Groton.
Yep.
And it works really well. And when, we had, fortunately, at this town meeting that we just had a couple of weeks ago, a motion, it actually was a CPA article, was held. One of the projects was held. The moderator voted all the other projects, the town meeting voted the other projects through. Then that motion was read into the record and they debated it separately and took action on it separately.
Yeah,
it
so
works.
one of the ways that it could be explained is how we run through the budget, which is the same way. If you hold one, then if you don't hold it all, we vote on the budget. If you
Correct.
hold one, we vote on what the budget minus those holds, and then we go back to those. So it's kind of the same way.
Absolutely. That's a good way to explain it.
Yeah, if it was explained that way, I think that would be the best way to because then people, the regulars, what I call the regulars, would understand.
And then consent motion number 4, the same. Colleen will read that in. And then if nobody holds 13, 18, and 19, that gets voted. And then the last article, or the second to last article, is Article 14. There's an article missing here. Hold on a second. Did we skip something? Can you go back, Peter?
Mhm.
Oh, I'm sorry. Ray, Article 12, because that's 2/3.
Yep.
That's voted separately as well. So Ed will
Yep.
read that into the record because it's a 2/3 vote.
Yep.
And then consent motion number 4 is majority. And then the final article is the strong fire chief article, which
Okay.
is a 2/3 vote as well.
Yep.
If people understand it as it's explained, I think they'll love it.
Yeah, it's going to be, it's actually a good time to introduce this, and get people used to it. Better than trying in May, when you have 35 or 40 articles.
Yep.
And trying to put it through on that. And I mean, I don't think we're gonna have a big turnout for this meeting. So
Ray, as I think about it, the one difference between as I explained, the one difference between the budget and a consent motion, while you can hold it, we're not going to read the actual motion. You're
yeah,
just going to give the budget. You're just going to give the article number.
yep.
Okay, and I'll explain that when I put that through. But
Yeah,
it's the
we'll just do
same.
that-
It's
we'll
the
just
same
do-
idea.
We'll just do that right at the beginning, Mark. Just
Yep.
run through a brief explanation of how this thing works, and then we'll just move on.
Perfect.
Barry, what do you got?
Will the people who attend the town meeting get a document that shows the warrant, the motion, and the recommendations from FinCom?
I'm hoping that two things get handed out at town meeting: the warrant, which is one document that has the FinCom recommendations, and then the second document are the
Would be the consent motions.
motions. Yep.
Okay,
Yeah. So how it's put in place, the consent motions. Yeah. Okay.
So what do we do about the one article that we're going to pass over for that, Mark?
It's in the consent motion.
Okay.
Article 4 is part of the part of consent motion number 2. So it just gets passed. If nobody holds it with the other articles, it just gets voted.
Okay. Let me just look for that.
Can you talk us through one more time if somebody wants to hold one of the articles?
If Peter, go back to the first consent motion,
Yep.
please.
Yeah. Got it. Hold on a minute.
So if somebody wants to hold 5.
Yep.
Ray
So
moves
what would
forward.
happen?
Yep.
Yep. So what happens is Peter's going to read that first motion, and basically what he's saying is he wants to combine for consideration Articles
Yep.
1, 3, and 5, and 6. However, that if any vote prior to taking the vote requests the right to debate a specific article, then that article will be removed from the motion. So
Yep.
Peter reads that in, and as soon as Peter reads that in, the moderator says, okay, is there a hold on Article 1? Silence. Article 3, silence. Article 5, somebody raises their hand and says, hold. Article 6, silence. Then what happens is the moderator takes a vote on the consent motion, which would pass Articles 1, 3, and 6.
Yep.
Then after that's voted, Peter will read Article 5 as you would normally do any motion at town meeting. That makes sense?
Okay. Yep, it does. And then you move on to the next consent article.
Once Article 5, then you move on to Article 2, and then Select Board Member DeFazio will read that into the
Understood.
the
Okay.
regular motion.
Okay.
In the beginning of the meeting, when you're going over the explanation, in the beginning of the meeting, when you're going over the explanation, should we kind of cover the fact that people should not expect presentations like they might be used to doing? And if so, should we reach out to the stakeholders tomorrow, like CPC's coming to mind, and let them know that while it might be good to come prepared in case somebody holds something, that don't expect to get up and present because a consent emotion won't allow for that?
Yeah, you know something, I do that in Groton. I send an email to all of them prior to the meeting. I should have done that here. I did not, but that makes a lot of sense. If somebody can alert the proponents of the articles that unless it's held, no presentation will be required.
I can draft
That's a great
something up
point.
and Ray send that over to you to approve if that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't have any planning board articles. Planning board's required to give a,
Those can
Their
never be in a
report.
consent. Yeah, those
Yeah.
can never be in a consent agenda because the planning board is required to give a report. And if they don't, the article is invalid.
yep.
Okay.
Piece of cake. Gonna be nice and chilly.
Are we still doing it at 2:00? Is that the time?
Yeah, 2:00, because we can't get on the field until 12:30.
Okay.
So there's games and Peter on the weather end of things they're saying 0 to 2 inches. I'm going to put that in your call to move it to Sunday if you want to. Okay?
If we move it to Sunday, did we want to keep it at 2:00? Just let me get the consensus.
No, no. Let's do it at 7:30.
Patriots are at 1, so that's a problem.
No, I think I'm pretty sure that we're going to be able to do it because there's games going on in the morning. So they're going to play whether there's an inch of snow on the field or not. So I say we just go with it, but Peter, that's your call. It's not mine.
Yeah, I mean, if there's standing snow in the field and let's say it's treacherous and dangerous for people to walk up there, I'm going to call it. I'm not going to lie to you. But if it's clear, which I anticipate it will, it should melt tomorrow.
Yeah.
Because
it should.
it'll be warm enough throughout the day.
Yep.
And then the next day is supposed to be warm enough, then I think we'll be fine.
Yep.
All right. Any other questions?
Mr. Chair.
Oh, yes, Mr. Smith, go ahead. Oh, I'm sorry, Dan and Barry, go.
Yeah, I just want to say, I think the comparison to how we do the budget article in May, I think it really help people to understand it just because it's so, the kind of procedure of it is, I think, exactly identical.
It is exactly the same. Yep.
Yeah, so I think making sure to emphasize that it's exactly the same as that, I think will help people to not just understand it, but also feel comfortable with it.
Yeah, the one thing, Dan, that I'm going to stress is that no voter loses their right to debate a particular article if they want to. All this does is it prevents having to read 4 motions into the record, have a presentation when nobody's going to ask a question. That's what this does. It just prevents, it helps speed the meeting up, but no voter loses their right to debate an article if they so choose. That's the important thing that I'll emphasize in whatever I say at the beginning.
Okay, great. Barry and then Irene.
Will help be needed in handing out the pieces of paper?
That's a good question. I think they will be left right there where people come in and register. So there'll be tables set up when people come in and register with the election workers to get in there, and there'll be handouts right there for people to grab.
Okay.
We
Do you
doing
bring your own
wristbands
chair?
again?
I'm
Yeah, you
sorry,
can
Mark. Guys, one at a time. Mark, what did you say?
Ray, are we using wristbands or pieces of paper to? for you to see?
Wristbands. Yep.
I'm sorry, Barry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Okay. Do you bring your own chair?
You can if you want.
Will chairs be provided?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Will there be a tent for finance committee?
No.
Okay, good.
Irene?
If the sunshine from the 30-degree wind chill is too much to take, wear a hat.
I thought the June meeting was perfect.
Yeah.
I had a nice breeze, a little
Yeah.
shade, was really good.
It was very nice. As a matter of fact, I would rather have it 85 degrees than the cold wind chill we're going to have on Saturday.
I agree. Thank you.
Irene.
Yeah, 85 would have been nice. 95 was pushing it, but whatever. I just wanted to make the comment to people, because I know we got a few participants and word gets around. People might want to consider bringing a small piece of plastic to put under their feet. And this comes from somebody who's done some camping with the Scouts. And the worst thing in the world is cold feet. So just bring something waterproof. You can put it underneath your feet, regardless of what kind of shoes you have on. It'll do a lot to help keep you a lot warmer. That's all, just kind of a little note to people.
Good idea. And there's no campfires allowed on the field. Go ahead. Mr.
Oh,
Webb.
yeah, no, I thought there was.
Mark, could you just review with us what a resident could expect if they did choose to hold? Do we go back to that resident, and is there a contingency if somebody tries to hold everything?
Yeah, so Ray, what our moderator does in Groton is if the same person just starts holding every article because they don't like consent agendas, the moderator does have the ability to say, I'm going to require a second hold before an article is held. that prevents somebody from trying to squash the consent agenda. As far as your first question, Colleen, what happens is after the moderator dispenses with the articles that weren't held, and that vote is taken, under the first example on the consent motion, when Peter is the reader, he would get up then and read that motion into the record, and then hopefully the moderator will call on the person that held it so that they can ask their question. So Ray, you have to identify the person that held the article.
Yep.
Does that make sense, Colleen?
Doreen?
Yeah, thanks. Ray, just to confirm, we're not going to have a screen to project the articles at
No.
this meeting, correct? Okay.
No.
So the other thing I'm thinking of is it's going to be important for us, since this is our first time doing a consent meeting, that if somebody holds an article, I think going back and either having the moderator or the person reading the article reiterate which one it is, and also think about making sure, like having some extra copies up front of all the articles so people can make sure everybody has a copy, because if it's not going to be up on a screen, we don't want people confused by the entire process and then not even know what article we're on, because that might, cause a little bit of disruption too.
It is going to cause some confusion, and it's but because it's only 19 articles and we're trying this out for the first time, it should work out. It should work out fine. I think there's enough people to explain how this works and how it operates and what it does. And I think once people get a grasp of it, they'll understand it.
Any other questions?
By the way, I don't want to learn it, but I don't want to learn about the consent agenda. I wanted to go to the meeting and sit out there and harass people, but I couldn't
Due
get
time.
away.
In due time. Due time.
I think you'll like it, Ray, if it cuts the meeting much shorter.
Oh, that would be really nice. Yeah.
Sorry, Colleen, what do you got?
I was just going to give a little feedback as far as confusion goes. We posted that image a little over 2 weeks ago. We posted that video now for this week. And I will say there hasn't been any confusion posted on social media. I know that's not everybody, but that usually is a pretty good indicator of what could come. And I haven't seen any questions being posted on those. So that's a good sign.
The important thing is that everybody that goes in gets a copy of both the warrant and the motion so that they know so that they have it in front of them. As I said at the beginning, that's crucial. You have to have that piece of paper when you come in. So hopefully we have plenty of copies just in case there's a huge turnout, because from what I'm hearing, the fact that Ray's coming back for this is going to draw a lot of attention to the meeting.
Did you see his video? Did you see his video published?
I loved it. And
it's like
as a
Star
matter of
Wars
fact, I want that.
I didn't
Parker
do
and
that
Hatfield
Star
was
Wars thing. I didn't.
Right.
All I did was the video. I didn't do that Star Wars thing. That was a surprise to me.
That was classic. I'm sorry. All right, but we'll have. So just from a logistics standpoint, I think we print out a couple hundred of these. Is that going to be enough?
200 of them, yes.
Yeah. Okay. And they'll be at the front tables where people are registering to come into town meeting. And I guess it would make sense to maybe put, 25 or so, maybe at another table inside, where we are, where if someone just forgot to grab
just
one.
in case.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
That'd be
think one of the
important.
first things you ask is make sure that everybody's got one.
Okay.
The election worker should be told to make sure everybody grabs it when they come in.
Yeah. all best laid plans, right, Mark?
Yep.
You tell people to
Yep.
grab it, they're just going to walk right in and not listen to you. And yeah,
That's
I
true.
just that's going to happen. All right. Anyone else have anything? Going once? Did everyone get to ask their question? I'm sorry, did I miss anybody? That's the last thing I want to ask. I don't think I did. All right. Well, I want to thank everyone for coming out tonight. That was quick and easy. If all things go to plan, we'll see each other Saturday afternoon, dress warm. And I look forward to seeing everyone at town meeting and seeing this go through. If that's it, I can entertain. Mr. Haddad.
Oh, just one thing, just to the finance committee, we do have a posted meeting at 1:30 prior to the start of town meeting on Saturday. Thank you, Pete. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Oh, that's okay. And that gives me, I also want to remind the select board, we have a meeting posted at 1:45 before, and you all received that email today. Okay, if that's it, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Good night, everyone.
There,
Yes.
real quick before we do that, on a related item, I'm coming in costume. I don't know what everybody else is doing, but I don't know. Is anyone else wearing a
Will we
costume?
my question to you, Ed, is will we recognize you?
Probably.
Okay.
Ed, what kind of costume?
I can't tell you. It's going to spoil the surprise.
Oh,
It's a
geez.
leftover Tom Brady uniform.
Yeah, yeah. Zombie
We're all
Brady.
gonna come as Ray Mead.
That's right. You'll have to dye your hair gray.
I'll have to grow some here.
I have to get some hair first.
Yeah, I have to grow another foot. All right. That's great. Well, thank you much, everybody. At that point, I can entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those by roll call. Mr. Fazio,
DeFazio, aye.
Mr. Frisbee,
Yeah.
Ms. Roy,
Aye.
Mr. Often,
Off tonight.
Peter Carlson, I. Clear the motion carried. Have a good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.